year, I was invited to give a talk at the New Orleans Museum of Art. I give a lot of talks, and I wasn't expecting any surprises, but I got one anyway.
Over 30 years, Brod has spoken to audiences in all 50 states, Europe, Asia, Africa, and Latin America.
During the last 21 years, I've had the opportunity to perform poetry all over the world. My audiences are usually children, sometimes parents and teachers, but this was going to be just a little different. This was an all-adult audience, and all of them from my hometown. I was performing at home.
All right. You never know what happens when you walk into a room and you see an audience, and this turns out to be the nicest audience I've ever seen because everybody in this room is at least an intimate friend, and most of the people I love are here. So it changes the script entirely. What this really kind of becomes for me is a chance to let the people I care about most know what I do with my life and why I do it, which is a little strange because even my children and my grandchildren and my wife and my best friends know what I do, kind of. But there's an element of obsessive passion involved in my work that I never get to communicate because it's just a little too geeky.
And there are some poems I never get to perform. I have a book called A Bullfrog at Café du Monde. It's a collection of poems I wrote about the city of New Orleans. And if you don't know New Orleans like a native, it's a little difficult to understand them.
The City of New Orleans Blues is a poem that I wrote when I was still practicing law. I had a really cool law office. It had 5 walls in it, 4 of them were glass up on the 18th floor. You know, it was a kind of office where you could live with the illusion that you were somebody. And it was night, and I was working late, and I turned all the lights off, and I was looking out in the city. I could barely see the curve of the river because I was on the other side. Having served in the city council and lived here all my life, as people know who are intimately involved with the city, you really, really, really love it. And it becomes, as you struggle through the things about the city that are problematic and at that point seemed cancerous, you have this love-hate relationship. So I wrote a poem called City of New Orleans Blues. Sometimes I think about leaving. And sometimes I wonder if I'm not missing out, if there ain't some other place I ought to be. That's when she browns onions in an iron skillet and sings to me with whiskey breath her sad wailing song about riverboats and chains, making levees, pounding rains, driving piles to build a house in Flambeau. Then when I'm asleep in bed, she hexes up the spirits of the river to fill my head with the smell of black molasses, and she hugs me with big sweaty arms. She holds me deep and strong. And I hear myself murmur in the dark, Lord, I don't know what's right or wrong, but bury my bones above the ground, because on this river's where I belong. Right here's where I belong.
And it brought back lots of memories, like the time I was driving along Bayou Lafourche with my friend Richie LeBlanc, and we saw a sign, a food advertisement, that you couldn't possibly see anywhere else in the world but in South Louisiana.
And we actually saw this sign sticking up in the bayou. Good eating. The sign read, crawfish, frog legs, turtle meat, alligator tail. And I thought, damn, there ain't nothing safe on Bayou Lafourche.
It also brought back some memories from our political days. Gary Easelin was the publisher of Gambit newspaper. He was also a personal friend and my mentor as a poet. And back then, Gary and I would do debate training and debate preparation for our friends who were candidates for public office.
So we were writing carefully crafted lies for 3 days. And Gary, my fellow poet and teacher as a poet, and I were starving for a little bit of truth finally. So I wrote a poem called Campaign Promises. This is in the voice of the seasoned old politician who's got his cigar in his mouth, you know, and he's at the campaign meeting. And by the way, since I wrote this poem, I've learned to put these kind of introductions in the poems, but this is early work, and I didn't know how to do it yet, you know, so this guy, the young candidate says, I want to tell the people the truth. I want to campaign on the issues. So the old seasoned politician spits out his cigar and he goes, now we know you want to campaign on the issues, but we took a poll. And it's pretty clear what the people want to hear. You'll promise more policemen, you'll cut the property tax, you'll fix up all the potholes, and get government off their backs. Where will all the money come from? How the goody goods will groan. Well, there's fat inside that budget, and you'll cut it to the bone. You'll fire all the deadheads. You'll eliminate the waste. You'll restructure all the spending on a zero budget base. My boy, you can say almost anything, but avoid the cardinal sin. As long as you don't tell the truth, I'm sure we're going to win.
All of these poems were written way before Katrina, but one of them took on a new kind of meaning after Katrina, especially in those difficult days when, as New Orleanians, we faced the real possibility that the city we knew and loved and grew up in might never come back.
After Katrina, this is a poem that just rang in my head over and over again. I almost never perform this, but it's called River Revival. She had loved them all. Riverboat dandies, cotton money, loud-talking oil men. They waltzed her from the Mississippi past the parish line, and when she reached for more, they built bridges to keep her ankles dry. And no one could deny her when she was a star. But there were so many years. She used more makeup, curtsied for tourists, and took in boarders till the blood lay like tar in her veins. And she crawled old and aching back to the river from which she came. And there on an urban wharf, she leaned forward, closed her eyes, smelled the mud of a continent, felt the current of the river cold inside her, and she heard her own voice, low and strange, with words that she chanted as if she knew them from another life. I am the lady of the river, the city of your dreams, and I'm stronger than I seem. Stay with me. Believe in me. Love me. I will be young again. So, thank you guys. What a delight it is for me to do those poems with you guys and know that all of you get it, you know.
It was a great night. What a pleasure it was to perform for a hometown audience using poems that were written especially for them about the city that we all love so deeply.